Hey guys, Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. We want to thank you so much for all the support you've given us here on the network. And if you want to see what we're up to outside of the station, please follow us all over social media. I'm on Twitter at MikeMmedia and on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. You can follow the good brother Alex Mercado on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. The lovely Nicole Mancha is on all social media platforms at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Our pop culture show, The Good Brothers, on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Our true crime shows on Instagram at Murder, Mysteries, and More. And of course, like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all our videos on YouTube.com/Mike Mercado 2333 or by searching Mercado Airwaves Network. We play video games on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And of course, you can support our network by finding a tier just for you, whether you want early access, you want to be part of polls, you want to win contest prizes, by visiting us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And we really appreciate it wherever you get your favorite podcast. So like, rate, review, and share us. And please spread the word. For the good brother, Alex Mercado, for the lovely Nicole Mancha, I'm Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for all the support you've given us here on the network.
Hello and welcome in, friends, to a hybrid edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves, as we are joined by the good brother himself, Alex Mercado. What's going on, good brother?
How's it going? It's like the mega powers combining.
Because WrestleMania is upon us, and while it's a very interesting WrestleMania to say the least, this is going to be one that definitely we remember for a long time. So, good brother, before we make our predictions about WrestleMania 36, I got to know, what have you thought about the idea of the WWE going on with a bunch of shows, recording a bunch of shows, and then doing a two-night WrestleMania?
You know, it's interesting because I think you can make an argument for both sides. I think you could take the pros and the cons and really make a good debate. I personally enjoy it because, you know, this is probably the most into sports I get, at least sports entertainment. And so not only is this our job, but it is very fun for us still. And I do look forward to their recordings because there is no sports on right now. So definitely sports entertainment takes that. And I personally enjoyed it, and I like that they've taped enough to last a few weeks. And I think canceling WrestleMania at this point would have been mute. You just make SummerSlam bigger. But I'm glad I have something to look forward to this weekend, and that they're finally now slowing down and stopping. A lot of what we're going to see is a couple of weeks old anyway. So I personally don't have a problem with it. But at the same time, if you ask me that again and re-recorded, I can say all the negative too.
Now, what have you actually thought about the programming itself during the quarantine time?
You know, it hits its peaks. There are definitely a lot of good stuff in there, and we see a lot of good matches. Like, I know Andrade's getting a lot of time the last month, and Street Profits, and we've seen a lot of Seth Rollins. I think Raw's definitely improved, and I do enjoy when they throw in, at least you know, hey, we're going to throw in a Royal Rumble for an hour. You can watch, you can't watch, but at least you know we're not sitting there for 3 hours. So I think they've handled that very well. I like the way they've handled their sister networks like FS1 or ESPN with showing replays, because I think it's fun to look back at some of these from 7 years ago or 10 years ago. But product-wise, obviously SmackDown struggled a little bit. I think the women have gotten a good amount of time on SmackDown. Overall, it's weird, and it's going to remain weird. I think NXT and AEW definitely showed more of a weakness than the other two. But again, for me, I'm just enjoying having anything new. And I guarantee when it stops, we're going to really look back and appreciate all the work that went into giving us at least an extra month or two.
And speaking of NXT, we did get a chance to see Dijakovic versus Punishment Martinez, a.k.a. Damian Priest, and, of course, the NXT North American Champion, Keith Lee. Keith Lee ended up winning, or retaining at the very least, his NXT North American Championship. A good match, but it kind of just, it's if you're looking for wrestling during the coronavirus, aka COVID-19 pandemic and everything being shut down, it was a big moment. It looks unique. It is missing something. I know we make fun of the marks, the smarks, and everybody in between, but they are as much part of the scenario and the show as anything else. But I know the guys and the gals are going to give us the best they have. So I think we could, at the very least, we know that they're going to put their absolute best, or that they did during the recordings, because they know it's going to be one to go down in the books forever.
I think now we can really slow down our expectations and we know what we're getting. I'm still very excited about WrestleMania because no matter what, good or bad, I want to see what they do, and I want to see how it looks, and I want to see how I feel after. I'll give NXT credit. They were smart by saying, we're not going to do a takeover. We're just, all those matches you wanted to see, let's spread them out a little. And I think that's showing a better product because this week's NXT was already much better than they've done in a whole month.
So before we move on to WrestleMania 36 and give our predictions, I don't think we're going to go through takeover stuff for NXT specifically. No. So before we get into that, I guess there's just three big questions. Who do you think wins between Gargano and Ciampa?
Ciampa.
Does Velveteen Dream beat Adam Cole to become the NXT champion?
Not right now, but he will.
Does Killer Cross do anything with Finn Balor, or is he doing something with Ciampa and or Gargano?
I could see him in the championship picture, honestly, like right away. And if not, it probably is a Ciampa thing.
All right.
If he does premiere during that, then Gargano would be the one to take the win, and that might start the rivalry of Ciampa Cross.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Gargano wins Ciampa versus Cross, and I think Velveteen Dream becomes the new NXT champion. And I do believe that NXT at the very least are going to give us a bunch of other fun stuff, and we'll get into what we think is going to happen in the women's match. I end up thinking probably Bianca is going to win that ladder match because she has the best matchup against either one of these women. We'll make our prediction in a second, but that's where I'm leading to. But if you're ready, good brother, let's get into WrestleMania 36, a WrestleMania too big for one night.
Let's do it.
We start off with probably the most fun story, the most engaging story in this crazy season that we're having in wrestling. Otis takes on Dolph Ziggler with Mandy Rose on his side. Dolph Ziggler's first ever singles match at WrestleMania. And of course, it happens in a pandemic in an empty arena. Good brother, who do you have?
I definitely have Dolph Ziggler because there's going to be some sort of swerve. It's WWE. We all know it. Otis is fun. He definitely is one of those people without a crowd even. I think he's fun. Again, he's the wrestling Chris Farley, where he's enjoyable to watch. And Dolph Ziggler is an actor in himself. So I think this actually will be very entertaining. But if I had to guess, I think Dolph Ziggler will win by a swerve from Mandy Rose or Sonya.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a Dolph win, but I do not think it's going to be because of Mandy Rose. I definitely do think it's going to be because of DeVille. So that's kind of where I'm going into that direction as well. So I think we're both going with Dolph Ziggler in his first singles match with the W.
That's crazy, the heavy machinery, that he's getting a WrestleMania match before the tag team does. Like, that doesn't happen a lot.
But we do know WWE does believe in heavy machinery. They do believe in them in some sort of way. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play long term. But this is definitely a get right for Dolph Ziggler and to move this storyline for when they come back during the summer. The Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, defend their women's tag team championship against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. This one's really interesting. There's been stories about Asuka being sick. There's been stories about Kairi Sane getting married, but also she was injured. I'm not too sure how this is going to play off, but at the very least, I'm interested to see where my prediction ends up, but I want to know, who do you think wins the women's championship?
I think at this point you put it on Nikki and Alexa because I think it's a little more consistent. They're both in the area for when you do start recording again. I think for what we're going through now, that makes more sense. And you're going to be able to use the other two, give them a little time off, and bring them back as single stars or just as dominant in the tag division. You don't lose anything putting those belts on Nikki and Alexa at this point.
100% agree. We don't know exactly what's going on, everything being recorded as far in advance as they are. I definitely do think they trust Alexa. They love Asuka. So in that scenario, I think they're definitely going to go with the people who live in the area who I think it's just they can record and do a lot more stuff. So I'm going to go with Alexa and Nikki winning the titles as well.
Yeah.
For the Intercontinental Championship in what is definitely a dream match for WrestleMania, Sami Zayn defends his Intercontinental Championship against Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura on the corner of Sami Zayn. Drew Gulak on the side of Daniel Bryan. Good brother. Who walks out of WrestleMania the Intercontinental Champion?
No, this one interests me because I would have said Daniel Bryan right away. But with everything going on with the rumors that he really doesn't want to be wrestling right now necessarily because of what's going on, to me it depends how much they're going to record and how far they really have to go. I'm going to stick with my guess of Daniel Bryan because as much as we love Sami Zayn, I think he's a carryover champion for Daniel Bryan. And I think he's definitely a face you want to run with. Tota Bellas is on again right now with a new season. So you're going to see his face quite a bit. I think he's the better pick, honestly. I would put the title on him at the moment because I think there's more to do with heels chasing on SmackDown per se.
Daniel Bryan is definitely the face that you want to put it on, and I'm not just talking about in characters. He's just definitely the guy you want carrying that torch, especially during a time like this. Sami Zayn has done amazing for what they've given him, and it's nice that he's going to have a one-on-one match. Again, it sucks that this match is going to be in a empty arena, but I agree with you. I think Daniel Bryan coming back again when everything is in full circle, when they do start touring, when SummerSlam's around, you want certain big names to be holding these titles for a few weeks. I think Daniel Bryan walks out with the IC championship as well.
Yeah. So far, we've agreed on everything.
Yeah, and I think I'll get into why I think that was the case at the very end of this, if you don't let me forget. Moving forward, we have Elias versus King Corbin. If this happens, I'm not too sure because we saw what happened with last week's SmackDown episode. We're watching to go home right now. What are you thinking? You think this is a Corbin win?
No, I think it's Elias.
Why?
You know what? This is the tough one because this match really doesn't have a lot of backing. They didn't put a lot of story into it besides recently him throwing him off something. They still advertise this match as of Raw, which, to me, it's like WWE doesn't make mistakes like that, so there's always a story to it. We'll get to that with the Roman situation. I think they're going to get Elias a push. I think they were starting to, at least as a character. And I think Corbin's the ultimate heel that, again, in front of a crowd, he'll always get booed, but in general, he's just such a good heel that this is good for Elias to get that WrestleMania win in that moment compared to what he's been used for in the past big shows, which is Undertaker buries him, John Cena buries him. At least this would be a good win for him.
I think Elias is more of a character that is needed in front of a crowd. I think he'll have a fun entrance. I think Corbin is their top heel, at least one of their top heels, especially on SmackDown. I think you give the win to Corbin. So there's our first disagreement.
All right, there you go. That's going to be worth a point.
Now, here's an interesting one. I haven't heard too much of it. I really haven't watched a lot of Raw recently. So tell me if you, not only do you think this is going to happen, but how you think it impacts another match possibly later on into the two-night WrestleManias. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley?
Yeah, again, WWE doesn't make mistakes. So if it's advertised still and we don't see them write it off tonight on SmackDown, it's happening. Whether on WrestleMania we get some crazy thing like we will with Roman Reigns, this match is happening. I think it's going to be a squash match. I think they only did it because they're going to give Aleister Black a big push coming out of this. Because I think down the line we're going to see him in a title picture within the year against like a Seth Rollins or even a Drew McIntyre, depending on where they go with that. But I think it's going to be one of the quick matches. It's going to be about less than a minute. He's going to get his move in, cool entrance, and that's it.
I 100% agree. A quick fade to black, and that's it.
You have to, especially, and it looks good against Bobby Lashley because it's Bobby Lashley.
And Bobby Lashley, I mean, they're never going to really push him like that, but they'll always do enough of like what they did with Big Show and Kane where he's just powerful enough. So I think that's why you give it to Aleister Black. Now, another interesting matchup that has been kind of derailed because of an injury that isn't associated with COVID-19, as Andrade has been pulled out because of an actual rib injury. So Austin Theory and Angel Garza will take on the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Who do you think wins this one, good brother?
I think the Street Profits are going to hold the title for a while. I think this is going to be a great match, maybe even a match of whatever night it's on, because I think this is four of the better wrestlers they have, and they're all young and hungry. Austin Theory is going to be a star for sure. He's getting that John Cena rub, so that's always helpful. But obviously, I think this is just, let's have a good match. Street Profits are going to retain. Not everyone is switching titles. And I think it makes more sense with the Street Profits now, because then you can go back to an AOP eventually down the line, or a heel tag team with Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, compared to you don't really have a lot of face tag teams at the moment with the Viking Raiders injured. So I think it makes the most sense to just leave it on the Street Profits since they just won it. And I think they were gaining so much momentum a month ago, it makes sense to just leave.
The only thing that really sucks, though, is Andrade can't keep with the push. Something's always going on, and it really sucks because he really would have been the star of this one, him and Montez Ford. So kind of sucks, but yeah, I'm going with the Street Profits as well. They're the young upstarts. They're gonna go. Austin Theory is gonna be a star. To think like he was on an Evolve pay-per-view on the network just like 6 months ago, and now he's in a WrestleMania again. Not. And here's the thing: we could talk about it a little bit right now because of somebody like, Austin Theory. This counts as WrestleMania, even if it's not in front of 70,000 people, right?
See, the first point is I think with Andrade, he kind of got lucky, and I think they're resting him just to make sure that during this time we're not really going to miss it, and we understand him not being seen. This is a WrestleMania, and I'm telling you, I think they're going to come out big with these matches and their production. And no matter what, it's history making because we're always going to remember this WrestleMania, the quarantine WrestleMania. So no matter what, these are moments. Like, you're living in that moment. So if you're on one of these two cards, you're the only WrestleMania to go 2 days. We've had WrestleManias go stadiums, not stadiums, multiple locations, even back 20, 30 years ago. But this will be the first and maybe last ever 2 nights of WrestleMania with no crowd. So no matter what, this is pretty interesting, say nonetheless.
I totally agree. I think you can make the best out of it. I've always said, even for regular sports, when it comes to the NBA, to baseball, there's going to be something unique when we do look back 20 years. And God willing, when we're old men, we're all able to, when we talk about this, and we'll talk about, hey, remember Mania at the Performance Center, or when they went to a compound, or when they went to Full Sail and nobody was there? And it sucks, obviously, because for some of these people, some of these performers, this is the only Mania they'll ever be a part of, But that being said, it's going to be a legendary one. I mean, like you said, they've been in stadiums, baseball fields, they've been in arenas, they've been in Las Vegas. So this is just another one to add to that list. Good, brother. The other tag team match, though, and as, breaking the fourth wall, we are watching SmackDown right now as we're recording this, and this is the SmackDown that's going home. Now, let me ask you this. There's been rumors that The Miz had a fever and he was sent home, and that the match is actually be John Morrison versus one of the Usos. Now, again, nothing is official, and I think any of these leaks have to actually be taken with a grain of salt because the WWE will know who leaked this stuff. So I wonder, what do you think this happens? On paper, I'm seeing The Miz and John Morrison defending their tag team SmackDown championships against the New Day and the Usos in a ladder match. What do you think happens? What have you heard? What do we make from this?
See, the only out they'll have in this, I personally think most of these leaks are false, except for one. And I thought the one false leak was honestly pretty obvious. Like I said, we're watching SmackDown, and they're continuing to push the story. So unless they purposely film something, maybe they jumped The Miz or something. I personally think the match is filmed and it's going on. I think the issue more is after WrestleMania. Like, did they film anything after, and maybe that's more the issue. But as of right now, I see them retaining the championships either way.
I agree. I think that they have filmed this ahead of time. I do think this is the triple threat match. This is the hardest one for me because I can see them putting the titles on any of these teams because they're safe teams to put the title on. When you come back, they're a team, they're a strong enough name where they can carry this. They can all carry this social media wise. I wonder if this is just one where it's kind of just to be safe, keep it on Miz and Morrison and let them get their real push later on. But yeah, I'm going to go with Miz and Morrison just to be safe. But do you kind of agree this is the easiest matchup where the title can be put on any of the guys and the company will be kind of safe?
Yeah, completely. Like I said, you have the hometown team in the Usos. The New Day is the best for social media. And the Miz and Morrison are kind of a mix of both. So you really are in a safe position with all of it.
Hey guys, Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. We want to thank you so much for all the support you've given us here on the network. And if you want to see what we're up to outside of the station, please follow us all over social media. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media and on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. You can follow the good brother Alex Mercado on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. The lovely Nicole Mancha is on all social media platforms at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Our pop culture show, The Good Brothers, on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Our true crime shows on Instagram at Murder, Mysteries, and More. And of course, like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all our videos on YouTube.com/Mike Mercado 2333 or by searching Mercado Airwaves Network. We play video games on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And of course, you could support our network by finding a tier just for you, whether you want early access, you want to be part of polls, you want to win contest prizes, by visiting us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And we really appreciate it wherever you get your favorite podcast to like, rate, review, and share us. And please spread the word. For the good brother, Alex Mercado, for the lovely Nicole Mancha, I'm Mike Mercado. Thank you so much for all the support you've given us here on the network.
All right, good brother. We continue on. And now I guess we could call this the second part of a 2-night WrestleMania extravaganza, WrestleMania 36. Too big for one night because of a pandemic. We'll start off with Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Finally, months, and people always talk about they want long storytelling. What they want is long, good storytelling. We finally got into this. It's kind of been hit or miss. What do you make of this matchup, Owens versus Rollins?
I think it's definitely been more hit the last 2 weeks because of the promo, and they're so good. This is a tough one. I think KO will get the win because he needs it. At the same time, when McIntyre wins the title, you're going to need a good heel to go against. Seth Rollins is that guy. To me, he doesn't need the win to be that kind of heel. He has the stable already, and that's enough. So I'm going to go with Kevin Owens because I really feel like without this, there's really not much more to do beside a Bray Wyatt Fiend situation where you totally reboot. Because at this point, it would be so many losses and so many big opportunities never really hit that Kevin Owens kind of does need this win, and we don't say that a lot.
If this was in front of the 80,000 people in Tampa, there's a great chance Seth Rollins would have won this match. But because it's empty arena and because there's really no drawback, you could give Owens a win that he needs, and it doesn't hurt Seth at all. Kevin Owens wins this matchup. Bayley defends her women's SmackDown Championship against Lacey Evans and Naomi and Tamina and Sasha Banks in a Fatal 5-Way elimination match. Who do you got walking out with the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36, good brother?
I'm actually kind of excited about this match because I think all these women have really improved. I personally think it's obvious that it's Sasha Banks. I think they're really going to push her heavy. They've kind of slow played the turn. I think they're going to make Bayley a face eventually again because the heel was fine and she had her championship run as it, but I think Sasha's definitely a better heel. And I think this is when we finally get that turn in those matches. And I think she's just going to be so much more famous later this year with The Mandalorian alone. And she's doing a lot of more other things that it's the smart pick to put it on Sasha Banks.
Bayley retains her championship. Sasha's eliminated pretty early in the matchup.
Okay.
John Cena takes on The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, in a Firefly Funhouse match. Going to be interesting to see what WWE Creative comes up with. But good brother, who do you have in Bray Wyatt's Fiend against John Cena?
I got Bray Wyatt, and the magic of John Cena is he's doing all these shoot interviews, quote unquote. He's doing all these interviews, and he's so good at putting over these talents, saying, like, even when he quote unquote buries them, he's just setting himself up as a really good opponent. So when they do beat him, it makes sense. And I think this is a long time writing that they accidentally got here, but I think they're glad they're here, especially with it being Bray Wyatt. This is when he gets his win back. Obviously, all these matches you wanted in front of a huge crowd, nothing you can do about that. But to me, I don't think they look at it as we need to change the writing. It's just, okay, well, hopefully maybe we'll do another one down the road, but definitely Bray Wyatt the Fiend.
Here's the thing, though. I agree the Fiend needs this match. I think Bray Wyatt has earned this win. It's hard to ever go against Big Match John. The company loves giving him W's.
He just put over Taker.
He did, but that's The Undertaker. The Fiend wins. But I think a lot of people are snoozing on the fact that never doubt the WWE and John Cena, especially. Now, I will say this. If Fast and the Furious was coming out, instead of it being pushed back to next year, he for sure would have beaten the Fiend. But
I don't see it, but I think that's the magic in John Cena is that he makes us truly believe that there is this sort of thing. But yeah, I think we both agree Bray Wyatt's winning.
Bray Wyatt wins this one, and I think it's going to be actually a really good matchup. How about Becky Lynch takes on Shayna Baszler for the Raw Women's Championship? Friend of the show, Becky Lynch. Shayna Baszler, who do you got, good brother?
Shayna Baszler, it's time to put that title on somewhere else. I think Becky Lynch as a character actually needs to lose the title. I think that'll drive a lot more going forward for her. I think it's a little stale now because she's the champ. I think she needs to get to someone like a Shayna Baszler to really get us some more storytelling going forward. I don't think we get Ronda Rousey. I think that's another, maybe we're still down the road from getting Ronda back.
That was my next question is, does Ronda make an appearance? Would Ronda have made an appearance if they were in the football stadium?
I don't think so.
So you think this was always just going to be Shayna's night?
I think Ronda would be more of a SummerSlam thing. Like that plan is months down the road in the middle of this rivalry, not in the beginning.
I'm going Becky Lynch. I think they're putting all their eggs into one basket. They love Becky. Becky sells merch. She's good in interviews. I think, if nothing else, there's no reason to take the title off of her right now. I think leading into a more dead time, they're going to put the title in Shayna, so probably right around July, so that August you can see Becky Lynch versus Shayna, and maybe then Ronda makes an appearance. But I think Becky walks out this coming up weekend champion, and probably in the next 6 weeks, when hopefully we get through this pandemic and this quarantine, Shayna will win the title, and then come SummerSlam, you'll have Becky chasing Shayna Baszler, and then in that way, we'll have Ronda coming back, and we'll see how that all plays out. The main event for the women's match, I think, Becky, front of the show, great year of a run, was the main event last year. I think this is the main match for the women's division. Rhea Ripley defending her NXT Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair. What do you think? How do you think this plays out? What are your thoughts about this huge matchup, good brother?
I definitely think we're going Rhea Ripley on this. I think they're trying to build another star at this point. I think Charlotte's the best person to put against because she doesn't necessarily, of all these people, she doesn't need a win at all because she already has maybe solidified herself as the best female wrestler of all time. But I definitely see her not picking up the win here and remaining on one of the other two brands.
Rhea Ripley wins because eventually you're building your way to Ripley versus Lynch in a huge matchup. There's a reason why they've avoided putting those two together. There's a reason why Becky is being fed these MMA women. And if let's say Ronda just never comes back, Becky needs somebody that's not Bayley, Sasha, or Charlotte. And that's Rhea Ripley. That's why I think Rhea wins this one and solidifies herself. Would have been a huge moment in the big stadium, but another big match in its own. We both got Ripley defending her championship. All right, good brother. So there's a few matchups that I haven't gotten to yet, and they're the big ones. And there's some that have some circumstances to them. So let's go to one that I think might end one of the two nights, but I do know for sure has been recorded. Royal Rumble winner Drew McIntyre takes on the WWE champion Brock Lesnar. Who wins? Why? Give us your thoughts.
Like I said, I don't think they're turning. I don't think they're trying to swerve us. I think it's Drew McIntyre like it's always meant to be. I think it's that simple. I think going forward, that was your plan and you're sticking to it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's push it to SummerSlam, but I just don't see you doing that and it making sense. And I think that's why they won't do it, honestly. And I think it's just Drew McIntyre's time. Does it suck that this happened during this crazy push and crowning? Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, it's still the storyline, the better approach to go.
All steam ahead. It is going to Drew McIntyre. They are not going to stop this. They believe in him. Brock is going to take the days off that he wants. I'm sure Brock is sick of doing all these recordings and stuff. They give it to the guy they want, give it to a guy that will go on tour. And here's the thing, Brock will always come back, and we know when he's coming back. He'll be back for SummerSlam when hopefully in August things will be a little bit easier on people. So I think you go with the guy you've been building. You don't stop now. Go Drew McIntyre. Now this is one, good brother, that I have waited to put on. It's the other championship match. It is Goldberg defending his Universal Championship against Roman Reigns. Now, let's just address the rumor because I know you've been hinting at it throughout the show what your thoughts about this match are. But the rumor being, and Roman Reigns even going on Instagram and telling us that he will not be at WrestleMania, that he will not take on Goldberg, and that the rumor is Braun Strowman will not take on Goldberg. So, let's play both. Goldberg defending his Universal Championship against Roman, or, in the scenario, Braun Strowman. Who walks out of those matchups?
I think it is true. I think Roman won't be there, and they said it. I think that's one of the situations where they recorded something. It's going to be Braun Strowman. I think Braun Strowman wins the title, and he'll carry it for you, and he'll be fine for a little bit. He's going to be the definition of a transfer champion, because eventually that title will go to Roman. And I think you're going to push Goldberg, Roman, just switch it where Roman has the championship next year. And we still get that same match. To me, fair, that match doesn't really need the title because it's Spear versus Spear and just more of a legacy thing. So I think they're going to be safe, and Strowman will take the title. He's your second biggest babyface that you wanted. I think that's why you take the Intercontinental off him a few weeks ago for this reason, because you're going to put the heavyweight on him to carry it over till we get either a Goldberg rematch and he gets it back, or a Roman Reigns gets it and then goes against Goldberg somewhere down the line at SummerSlam.
Just like Becky Lynch, where I think it's safer and the company wants to keep the title on people, this one right here, the plan was for Roman Reigns to be your Universal Champion on SmackDown moving forward. It was not meant to be Braun Strowman. Plans change sometimes. Here's something else that changed. It's easy to keep the title on Goldberg and let Roman win. It's okay for the company to have a working champion in Drew McIntyre, have its NXT brand, and also have its publicity champion on its major network. I think Goldberg wins this matchup either against Braun Strowman, loses if it is Roman, which is not Roman. He retains the Universal Championship.
But I mean, so we already know it's not Roman. Like, I don't think we have to lie to anyone.
Yeah.
There's no question. It's not Roman. Triple H confirmed. The only reason they're advertising it still is because story-wise they filmed something. What I think with this one is interesting is this is where we get the rumors of two endings, and I truly believe that we will not get a decision until the last second of what direction they want to go. Because I agree with you. Either Braun Strowman's walking out as champion or Goldberg's walking out as champion. And I think they're really debating. I think they're still debating, which is why they filmed two endings. Because I don't think they know what the reaction will be yet.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think how a company like them would think long term, because maybe they are taking a hiatus, and if you are taking a hiatus, you can't have in Vince's mind two working champions. You know, like that's what this would be with Braun and with Drew McIntyre. You would need kind of that big pop champion. So that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. But I think this would have been null and void if it was Roman. I think Roman was walking out the Universal Champion, but here we are. So you're going with Braun. I'm going with Goldberg.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, this is the match that's the most unique in the card, good brother, of WrestleMania 36. We just talked about it a second when you asked me where I think it's going to be placed in the card. It's going to have a big factor of the entire weekend, depending on where it's placed in the card. I also mentioned it earlier on when we were talking about Aleister Black. We have The Undertaker taking on AJ Styles in a Boneyard match. But The Undertaker talking about an unholy trinity. He's asking AJ to bring Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Some people are thinking maybe Kane and Aleister Black join The Undertaker. Good brother, what happens in AJ Styles versus The Undertaker?
You know, that's tough because some people are thinking maybe that's just him. We're going to get some crazy movie magic where he's all three of his versions fighting them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be more of a movie than a match. I really can't tell you. I don't know. Maybe it's Big Show and Kane, since he's been tag team champions with both of those guys. And, you know, a Big Show pop is always great. It could be Aleister Black. Maybe that's going to be the push for Aleister's. He gets the big win against Lashley, and, now he's Taker's boy, and he's helping him out. I don't know. I feel like this one's going to be the most movie-like, and maybe we'll get something really goofy and Matt Hardy weird style of there's three different versions of Taker, and he's fighting them one by one, and the way it's filmed. So I'm very interested to see what they do with this, and I really have not a lot to predict about it.
We mentioned it, so Edge and Orton are probably going to benefit the most of an empty arena. And you're going to have The Fiend and John Cena going to have this theatrical kind of flavor to it, which is great. But nothing will benefit most from post-production, from WWE grade A production, than an Undertaker AJ match. And the fact that maybe there is a bunch of interference from different people. Maybe we get to see a lot of cool, spooky Undertaker stuff. But at the end of the day, the only thing I know for sure is that AJ Styles is not Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. So the Undertaker walks out of WrestleMania 36 with the W.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a weird W. I honestly think this is going to go to SummerSlam too, where we're going to get a proper match where AJ wins. I think this is definitely a two-peat, not a one match, one and done. I'm interested because, like you said, WWE's not going to put anything bad out there. Like, they've had a chance to film all this, so, like, whether you like the results or not, I think everything's going to be good when it comes to a show aspect.
Do you think this ends in a pinfall, in a submission, or in maybe a casket, maybe buried alive? How does
goofy?
So it's going to be a very goofy ending, do you think?
There has to be.
It's going to be fun, though. I think the WWE is going to find a way to make it enjoyable, and that's all you can ever ask for in a situation like that. All right, good brother. This is the one that I waited, that I saved for last, because this is the one that will be the final match, in my opinion, on Sunday night. Randy Orton versus Edge in a last man standing match.
It's going to be a barn burner, and Edge is going to go over. I mean, it's perfect storytelling.
I think Edge wins. I think this is a great match. I think this is the match that probably benefits the most from all of this. This is the match that probably is going to embrace this the most. I think this is going to be a very entertaining match. These two know each other. I think this is going to be a hell of a match. The main event of the true WrestleMania, I have Edge winning as well.
I think what's interesting is the way we talk about it, and we always kind of do, is placement of a match. Because to me, that's going to determine everything. Because if we get to Saturday and these placements are all over, some of your guesses might be like, oh, you know what? If that's going on last, like, that's going to be a big moment. Or, man, they put the SmackDown Championship in the middle. Okay, Goldberg's winning. Or, oh, you know what? They main evented. Something crazy might happen. But you can argue either way. But I think card placement's very underrated when making these picks because it does truly matter.
Good brother, we just went through the 16 matches of WrestleMania 36, a 2-night event on the WWE Network, as well as at pay-per-view. You know, times are desperate, good brother, when they're going on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I do think they'll make the money somewhere. But, I mean, what are we really going to say about that? Desperate times, right?
Now that we've gone through the card, now that we're both watching SmackDown on television, you're seeing the promos, you're kind of just seeing everything kind of go through. We went through the card. It's a banger of a card. What are your thoughts now? Like, did any part of it kind of sink in that, you know, it's something that you, I, and Super Mercado Bro Marcos, we always text about, like, we're going to go one day and, like, how epic it is in our family. And, like, we love the Oscars. We love the Super Bowl. We love the World Series. We love the NBA Finals. We love WrestleMania. How are you feeling now that we've done our predictions and kind of knowing what's going to happen tomorrow and Sunday?
I'm excited. Like I said, there's nothing new on. So the fact that they're still putting out a product, to me, I'm real appreciative of it, and I'm excited. I'm going to enjoy it.
Do you think the WWE would probably be the first show to be a sellout in all of sports because that's just kind of what the wrestling community does?
Yeah, and I also think they can go to a smaller arena, so they have the benefit of that.
It's going to be fun, good brother. It's going to be interesting, and at the very least, we know WrestleMania 36 will be a night no wrestling or pop culture fan will forget. Good brother, thank you so much for joining us on Sports from the Couch. A very fun Dragon Ball Z-esque fusion between Vegeta and Goku. Thank you so much. I know we didn't get a chance to talk proper sports, but such a big night where we're not doing the Good Brothers proper and there's not a lot of live sports. To talk a little bit of WrestleMania is pretty fun.
Yeah, regardless, it's still one of the biggest sports entertainment. It is the biggest sports entertainment show of the year. And again, wrestling, you know, the just views alone, say what you will about it, but it's still a big part of pop culture to this day.
Good brother, any final thoughts about maybe the wrestling industry moving forward, knowing what we heard about TNT's championship belts, knowing that maybe WWE will be going on break? Any final thoughts about the world of sports and entertainment?
I think we will see a break coming up, at least a 2-week break. Hopefully things can go back to normal by May like we wanted to, but I do see them taking at least a week or two.
Ladies and gentlemen, the good brother himself, Alex Mercado. He's on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports from the Couch, good brother.
Yeah, it was so fun. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, Mike here from Mercado Airwaves. We want to thank you so much for all the support you've given us here on the network. And if you want to see what we're up to outside of the station, please follow us all over social media. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media and on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. You can follow the good brother Alex Mercado on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram at Mercado2121. The lovely Nicole Mancha's on all social media platforms at Typing When Tipsy. You can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Our pop culture show, The Good Brothers, on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. Our true crime shows on Instagram at Murder, Mysteries, and More. And of course, like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can see all our videos on YouTube.com/Mike Mercado 2333 or by searching Mercado Airwaves Network. We play video games on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. And of course, you can support our network by finding a tier just for you, whether you want early access, you want to be part of polls, you want to win content contest prizes by visiting us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. And we really appreciate it wherever you get your favorite podcast to like, rate, review, and share us. And please spread the word. For the good brother, Alex Mercado, for the lovely Nicole Mancha, I'm Mike.